Hello friends and welcome to my 2016 Game of the Year Awards Spectacular. Each day I'll be celebrating a variety of my favourite things in video games from the past 12 months. There'll be 4 categories each day, followed by my final top 10 games of the year on day 5. Every award will feature 4 nominees and 1 winner, although in so many cases even cutting the list down to just 4 entries was tough enough. Of course, these are all just my own personal opinions, but if you'd like to share your picks in the comments, I would love to hear them. Let's get this show on the road with our first 4 awards. 2016's 2015 Game of the Year. Bloodborne. Although I absolutely adored Bloodborne, I didn't get around to playing the Old Hunters DLC until early 2016. It turns out that the Old Hunters is some of From Software's finest work in any game to date, featuring some incredibly challenging and memorable environments and encounters. But my adventures in the Hunter's Nightmare only served to reignite my lust for Bloodborne, and it didn't take long after finishing the additional content before I found myself knee-deep in the hunt once again with a fresh new character. Helldivers. When Helldivers came to the PlayStation Plus games library in February, it provided the perfect opportunity to jump in with a group of friends and experience the chaos together. Helldivers is a game which relies on careful coordination, as a moment of inattention could easily lead to one player being cut off from the group, or worse, suffering the consequences of a poorly timed friendly grenade. Few games demand such precise teamwork as Helldivers does, and pulling off a successful 3-star victory on the toughest missions was among the most satisfying feelings I experienced all year. Rocket League. I mentioned in last year's awards how I hadn't ever been asked to play Rocket League and not wanted to, so it should come as no surprise that I ploughed just as many hours into Psyonix's car football madness in 2016. I even stumbled into competing in a tournament which somehow went far better than anyone on our team could have anticipated. With new maps, additional cars, shinier cosmetics, and the addition of multiple unique new modes including Hoops and Rumble, there was always something to keep my mind coming back to Rocket League, as though it needed any encouragement. StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. StarCraft 2's campaign may have come to a dramatic conclusion with Legacy of the Void, but that didn't stop me from waging interstellar warfare throughout 2016. The vast array of user-crafted mods available in the StarCraft arcade already gave me plenty of reasons to keep coming back for more, but it was the cooperative missions which proved to be the real draw. Taking control of a variety of unique commanders and working alongside a friend to tackle a wide spectrum of missions and level up your skills provided a welcome and fun twist to StarCraft's core gameplay. While all 4 of these games took up plenty of my time this year, only Bloodborne continued to occupy my mind on an almost daily basis. The Old Hunters rekindled my interest, putting my skills to their toughest test yet, astounding me with all manner of nightmarish horrors, and giving me the necessary tools to craft a more arcane-heavy build, which I then took into the Chalice dungeons in search of that elusive Platinum trophy. Many people didn't take to the Chalice's more generic offerings, but my desire to keep playing Bloodborne was so strong that I jumped at any excuse to stay on the hunt. Even once that trophy hunt was finally complete, all I wanted to do was hop back in with another character and play around with even more of the new tools at my disposal, such as the vicious Beast Cutter and the gruesome Bloodletter. Whether playing solo, helping friends on a new adventure, or watching others play through the game in weird and wonderful ways, my love for Bloodborne's design and desire to spend my time immersing myself in its world and lore only increased this year. Even the release of a brand new Dark Souls couldn't keep me away from frequent return trips to Yharnam in 2016. Best Opening. Darkest Dungeon. If you're ever wondering how to start a tale of one small town's descent into madness at the hands of ancient ungodly horrors, you'd be hard pressed to beat the opening of Darkest Dungeon. The last words of your family ancestor who left this cursed mansion in your hands tell of his search for more extravagant pleasures, ultimately leading him to uncover the damnable portal of antediluvian evil deep below the estate. Wayne June's narration perfectly encapsulates the hopelessness which faces your adventurers in their nightmarish Lovecraftian expeditions to come. Doom. It takes Doom about 10 seconds to let you know what it's all about. Instructed to rip and tear until it is done, the Doom Marine awakens chained to a stone tablet, shatters a demon's skull across said tablet, and breaks free of said chains. After retrieving your iconic suit from a stone plinth surrounded by candles, you note the demonic invasion in progress and set about causing havoc. There's little time wasted establishing the light-hearted tone and visceral action that drives Doom's whirlwind adventure through hell and back again. Final Fantasy XV. The very beginning of Final Fantasy XV serves primarily as some character introduction and plot dressing, but the real gem comes afterwards, when we find our 4 good boys stranded on a desert highway, their trusty vehicle already having broken down. Watching them slowly push the regalia towards the horizon as Stand By Me plays is a glimmering portent of adventure to come. 4 close friends working together to face the struggles which lie ahead, each of them different from one another but sharing a friendship which shines brighter than any obstacle. Pokémon Sun and Moon. With this being the 7th generation of Pokémon, having a unique start was always going to be tough. But Pokémon Sun and Moon does a phenomenal job of establishing its new setting and introducing you to several key players in a natural, smart fashion. It also provides a thrilling early set piece, which sees the protagonists selflessly risk their safety to protect a mysterious creature, earn the respect of the island's legendary guardian, and win the heart of a delightful brand new companion to join you as you set out on your island challenge. All 4 of these games do a fantastic job of setting the scene for their upcoming hours, but none succinctly nail their tone quite so well as the way Doom drops you knee deep in the dead from moment 1. From the way the game immediately bills the Doom Marine as this almost mythological figure worthy of worship and terror, to the way it hands you a shotgun and pits you up against a fireball slinging imp in a fashion which feels both comfortably familiar and refreshingly new, Doom's opening salvo lets you know that you're in for something special. Not only that, it also lets on that developers id know just how silly this thing is, and aren't afraid to lean into it in the best way possible. The calm female voice over the intercom repeating the phrase, "demonic presence at unsafe levels." The stern instructions of Robot Dr. S. Hayden, rudely interrupted by Doom Guy punching through the communications panel, that initial shredding intro riff punctuated by the shotgun cock on the final beat. By the time those elevator doors open, you know exactly what's in store, and it couldn't be more exciting. Welcome to Doom. Best Surprise. Clash Royale. Having spent a fair chunk of time with both Clash of Clans and Boom Beach, I was completely ready to pass by Supercell's latest entirely. I'd had more than enough of 2 near-identical games featuring minimal actual gameplay other than filling bars, so imagine my surprise when I finally watched some footage of Clash Royale and in place of those monotonous city builders saw a fast-paced tactical multiplayer RTS. Seeing Supercell actually use those vast funds to craft a genuinely well-designed and rewarding mobile game was incredibly refreshing. Doom. During the 90s, the Doom series was one of the most iconic pillars of video games. After a 10-year hiatus, id Software's return with Doom 3 was a competent but flawed entry that ultimately left most people, myself included, feeling a little underwhelmed. Over another decade passed, and with the Doom 4 project already having been scrapped once, it seemed that the series might never rediscover its old glory. How wrong we were. Doom 2016 not only encapsulates the essence of classic Doom, it builds on it to craft the most definitive entry in the series yet. Hitman. I've always liked Hitman in concept, from the core idea of a perfect assassin carrying out silent hits, to the bizarre scenarios and more outlandish methods of executing your targets across the series. However, it never actually felt great in my hands. Until now. Hitman 2016 feels incredible, whether you're the bumbling assassin who leaves a trail of bodies in their wake, or the untraceable killer who no one ever sees coming, Hitman just feels so good. It's a game that's completely serious about its goofiness, and I adore it. Titanfall 2. I enjoyed the tutorial level of the first Titanfall right up to the point where I had to get in a big clunky robot. The on-foot movement felt incredible, but the Titans did absolutely nothing for me, and the lack of any campaign meant I never had a place to get used to the systems either. Titanfall 2 solves both of those issues in style, plummeting in with an inventive and compelling single-player story, and also redesigning the Titans to feel more varied and interesting. Whereas the first Titanfall was a competent proof of concept, its sequel is simply a spectacular video game on all counts. I'll be upfront about this, because it feels like an important point to make. I've never really liked mechs all that much. Titanfall 2 did so much more for me this year than simply entertain, it's won my heart over to Team Big Robots. I wasn't even planning to pick Titanfall 2 up until I heard the sheer outpouring of love for its campaign, which was so strong and so universal that I eventually decided to give it a chance, and boy were those people all right about it. In a year somehow full of great first-person shooter campaigns, Titanfall 2's is perhaps the finest. It never lets you rest on your laurels, constantly throwing new ideas your way just as you think you've got a handle on what's going on. It's inventive and funny, a charming buddy adventure filled with spectacular set pieces and cartoonish villains. In fact, I had such a good time with the single player that I was compelled to jump straight online upon finishing it, and before I knew it, that had me hooked as well. Titanfall 2 wasn't just the biggest surprise for me this year, it continued surprising me at every turn. Best New Character. Okay, this category could get a tad into spoilers, specifically for characters in Dark Souls 3, Pokémon Sun and Moon, and Uncharted 4. So if you'd like to steer clear of this last award, then thanks for watching and I'll catch you next episode. Otherwise, let's get to it. Sigurd of Katarina, Dark Souls 3. When you first bump into Sigurd in the Undead Settlement, he seems like nothing more than a throwback to Siegmeyer from the first Dark Souls. The Katarina onion armour, the cheery demeanour, the way he keeps getting himself into all manner of pickles. Yet there's something uniquely compelling about Sigurd's noble intent and his optimism and bravery in the face of trouble. Seeing his questline through to its conclusion when he finally stands alongside you against his old friend Yorm is a special and touching moment. Now a toast. Long may the sun shine! Lily, Pokémon Sun and Moon. In many ways, Lily could be considered the true protagonist of Pokémon Sun and Moon. As much as the game is about your adventure across Alola and your quest to become the strongest trainer, the storyline very much revolves around Lily. It's also striking to have a core character in the Pokémon series who is adamantly not a trainer. Lily's growth over the course of the game, from the ways she learns from watching you and your team progress, to the troubled relationship she has with her mother, really stands out as some of the strongest character building the franchise has ever seen. Nanu, Pokémon Sun and Moon. Nanu is another great example of Sun and Moon's real diversity of characters. When you first meet him, Nanu just seems like a passerby warning you of the dangers of entering Team Skull's hideout. As you learn more about him, you discover that he is the island's kahuna, and simply allows Guzma and co to hang out in Po Town because they're otherwise social outcasts. Nanu is a softly spoken guy whose quiet demeanour belies his strong nature. His reluctance to get involved in anything too intense is very relatable, and it's a nice change of pace to see a trainer who isn't always out for a fight. Nadine Ross, Uncharted 4. Despite being one of the minor players, Nadine stands out as one of the strongest willed and most grounded characters on Uncharted 4's campaign. As the leader of the Shoreline mercenary group and a supplemental antagonist, her sheer skill and determination makes her one of the most potent and dangerous foes the series has seen. Even when the odds are stacked against her, she's able to confidently hold her own. Yet, unlike her cooperator Rafe, Nadine is also smart enough to recognise when it's time to cut and run, not letting herself be driven to an untimely end by ego or greed. This year's Pokémon caught me somewhat off guard with just how many compelling characters you meet, yet Nanu still manages to stand out. The real achievement is how well they convey his character, speaking volumes with just a few words. Nanu serves as Ula Ula's kahuna out of an obligation to the island's guardian deity, who chose him for the role. He does his duty to the best of his abilities, recognising his commitment to help people as a strong trainer, despite his disinterest in conflict, but the real joy from Nanu comes in the moments when his kind heart shines through his normally sullen personality. As you prepare to chase after Team Skull, Nanu challenges you to a test as the island's kahuna. Upon defeating him, Nanu finally cracks a wry smile, now knowing that you are strong and determined enough to rescue Nebby from Aether's clutches. To top it all off, he then proceeds to bust out the preposterous looking Dark-type Z-pose with a completely straight face. Nanu continues to repeatedly show up after key moments, always giving you the impression he was watching from the sidelines, avoiding unnecessary confrontation, but always being ready to step in when he is needed. Having the chance to team up with him in the post-game is a real treasure. And that wraps up the awards for day 1. Be sure to come back for day 2, where I'll be talking about my favourite soundtrack of 2016, the best time filler, the multiplayer which most grabbed my attention, and the game with the best style this year. Thank you for joining me, and be sure to let me know what you thought of the video and if you agreed with my choices, or what you would have picked instead, in the comments section below. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers!